Hey everybody, I'm Maritza Barone, and this is the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. Has there ever been a moment in your life where you heard or read or were told something that you simply could not unhear? Something that caused you to make positive changes so that you could become the best version of yourself? Well, we share this show with access to inspiring and empowering humans who will motivate you to become the happiest, healthiest, kindest, and most compassionate you. Sit back, settle in, and let this be the day you hear something that simply cannot be unheard. Hello and welcome back to Things You Can't Unhear. Thank you again for being here, plugging my voice into your ears and allowing me to join you on your journey as you go about your day, whether you're driving or you're walking or you're cooking or you're working, whatever it is that you're doing. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you while you're doing it. Today on this episode of Things You Can't Unhear, I've invited Laurentine Bosch on the show, and she is the co-founder of the nutrition-based platform called Food Matters. Now, I've had James Colqhoun on the show a few episodes ago, so you can go back and have a bit of a listen to that episode if you want to hear a lot about the Food Matters brand story, how they got started, and all about their mission. But I wanted to invite Laurentine on the show also because she really does have a very inspiring way of living and an inspiring way of viewing life in a holistic way. And so ensuring that the way that we eat and the way that we live and the way that we think and the way that we feel are all intertwined as one. And she's someone who has traveled many corners of the globe, who speaks many different languages, who has lived in many different parts of planet Earth. So she's got an inspiring and very interesting background that she shares with us today. We talk about her life non-negotiables, who her mentors have been, some of her big life lessons, and of course the big impact that she wants to leave on the world. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Laurentine Bosch, and I would love to hear what you have to say. Now, please, if you've ever listened to this podcast, or if it's your first time and you really enjoy this episode, I'd love you to just rate and review the show. It makes such a huge difference to our listenership and getting other people to plug in and listen to these messages and these absolutely life-changing people that we get to share on the show. So please, even if you pause it now, rate and review the show. Give me a little 5 stars so I can feel loved and appreciated. Now, while I've got you, and just before we say hello to Laurentine, as you know, I love sharing inspirational voices on this show and also through the many podcasts that I help to produce. So if you feel as though you have something important to say and don't know where to start to bring that to life, please reach out to me to have a chat. I can help you bring your voice to life, from finding your confidence, learning how to craft your message, and even finally launching season 1 of your very own podcast. And soon I'm going to have some very exciting news to share on this front. So reach out at maritzabarone.com. Welcome, Laurentine, to Things You Can't Unhear. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you, Maritza. So amazing to be here too.
You are joining us from Vanuatu. I'm a little jealous, I must say. Tell me what it's like there at the moment.
Well, it is a tropical paradise. It's, for a lot of people, it's a holiday destination, but we actually have made it a home. And the reason being is because when I was a child, I actually grew up in Vanuatu. So it was a special place for me from the years of 3 until 10 that I got to spend in utter peace, quiet, and nature. Beautiful,
Wow.
Beautiful experiences. I remember walking down with my dad to go and feed the fish in the mornings, and just throwing bread crumbs at the fish and just seeing these tropical fish. And I remember that a certain time in my life when James and I were so busy and working that I just said to myself, this is a time when I remember how peaceful it was in Vanuatu, and I just want my kids to be able to experience that as well. So before they got too old, we decided to move to this beautiful country and actually make this a home, make this a lifestyle, make this our way of life. And being able to grow up here and now being able to see my kids grow up here is just it's a beautiful feeling as well.
I've got a huge smile on my face hearing that, because I mean, I did that as well. We moved to Fiji, but we only had that experience for 10 months. But that experience over 10 months is just not, you can't replicate that. You can't live that lifestyle here in Australia or in bustling big cities. It's just a different type of peace and calm and stillness that you find living
Mm.
in these types of locations. And how good is it, like you said, for our children to be able to experience living in that way and seeing different cultures and the way people live and the way that they can live in different cultures too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it comes down to, for many years, preaching the message of food matters, and having gone around the world after making the Food Matters film, and showcasing and screening the film, and people just being in awe about, yes, we can heal with natural medicine, and we are what we eat, and food does matter. And preaching this message for so many years, then making me realize that, hang on, I didn't actually get to experience this way of, like, I don't actually get to experience this way of life because we were on the road a lot, we were traveling, we were busy at work. So to be able to eat out of your own garden or grow your own food was just not accessible. It just wasn't possible. And we always had this dream that one day we will go and live what we preach. So it is also, from that perspective, it is a beautiful way to realize that, hey, we can do the message of food matters. We can live a lifestyle where we wake up. For example, this morning I harvested bananas out of our own garden, and I got a machete knife. Literally, here I am with my machete knife and this big bunch of bananas, and I had to hack it down, and we tied it off and we put it up next to the pool shed. And Hugo collected the bananas off the tree, off the vine, I guess you would call it, and then put them into a banana pancake mixture and fried it up himself. You know, it's like, yeah, we're living out of our own garden, and it feels so nice to be able to say that. And if you would come over right now, you'd be able to see on the left side we have. Over here we have the coconut palms, and then we have the manioc. Manioc is a root vegetable that's made up of, it's similar to, it's like a starchy potato. It's locally used here as a potato. And they use it, they grate it and turn it into anything from like breads to like typical like sort of doughy type of potato bake, you would say in Australia. And then like you have a medicinal garden, and I have, you know, everything from herbs like coriander and thyme and basil and oregano. And then further on down on the other side of the gardens, we have the pawpaws and the island spinach, which is a beautiful leafy green, and it's very high in B12. Actually, I was just finding out the other day because I love eating it. And yeah, so being able to harvest,
How
live
good.
out of your own
And
garden.
living off the land of your own supply is, you know, something that we're all aspiring to, especially at the moment with the prices of fruit and vegetables. I think I paid $30 for capsicums yesterday. So yeah, being able to walk out into my garden would be a dream. But you're obviously very passionate about food, and you've built this thriving community called Food Matters, which I talked about in the introduction. You've got over 4 million people who are part of that community, which is absolutely massive. You teach people, you save lives through educating them on nutrition, and now you're going further and helping people with well-being, online business courses. Like, you're completely unstoppable in your impact, helping other people, and you have a fascinating story that supports your brand. But I really want to know, and you know, we've had James on the show a few episodes ago. So if you want to get into the Food Matters brand story and the journey that James and Laurentine went on to launch that company, he's really spilled it out perfectly in that episode. And so today, Laurentine, I really want to get to know you on a deeper level, and you growing up, and what your experiences around food were as a child, and sort of how they've progressed now into today's modern world.
So yeah, thank you for asking that. I mean, like I said, I grew up here in Vanuatu, and for the most part, we lived a very traditional and etiquette life. And my parents were both from Holland, and they would set the dinner table with, white linen and polished silver, and we'd have our starched napkins, and mum and dad would call us and say, come in for dinner. And, we would still be playing out with the village kids and the house ladies' kids. And we were there like making fires and getting dirty, and we wouldn't want to come for dinner. We were just eating lup lup. That was way more fun. The local way that they cook the food here is on like a big, it's like an outdoor stove, but it's really called with hot lava stones, those ones, and like they have the banana leaves, and they wrap everything in, and then they stuff it in the oven, the bush oven, and then they put all the rocks on top. And we're like, Mum, Dad, we've already eaten. Like, what are you guys talking about? I don't want to sit in a dinner table and hold our knives and fork. So I grew up a bit wild in that way. And that's probably set me up for this wild way of thinking around food and around natural medicine. And we were brought up never to have to use any pharmaceutical medicines because we had the bush. And our house lady would be the one that would, oh, you have an ear infection. Don't worry. We have some pawpaw leaf, and we will just squeeze it, and we will just put that through your eardrum. And Dad would be like, no, don't touch my child. But this is like how I grew up, right? So it was like the paradox of the Western world, of the elite sort of way of life, especially because here my dad was a banker, and he was asked to set up tax haven bank accounts for a lot of Swiss and European bankers. So he was mingling around with this banker world, whereas meanwhile his kids were wilding, being bushed, being schooled by the bush.
The polarity, hey?
And loving it, right? So it was like the paradox. So I feel like I've always lived in these two worlds where I've seen the traditional way of life and the food that we can grow in the countries like Vanuatu. And I've also seen the world of the European. Back in those days, they were called the colonialists, and they were very much like, we have it our way, and we have pharmaceutical medicine, and we do it the way that we've been taught by our parents. And anyway, so it was very interesting to see those two polarities. And when I was actually I studied business, and I studied to become a trade and logistics expert in different countries where I could use my skills of shipping and trade. And then I got the idea to go back to Vanuatu. And I remember one time when I actually visited my dad when he was living here, I realized, oh, this was the time where I really got so interested in natural medicine again. And I started wanting to realize, hey, this is what I want to study. I want to study nutrition. I want to study natural medicines, because it brought me back into this world. And it was years later that I read this book by Dr. Linda Page called The Healing, A to Z Healing Herbs. And it literally spoke about natural solutions for every illness from A to Z that you can use foods, detoxification, and natural medicines for. And I was so fascinated with this book. I literally read it from cover to cover. It was a coffee table book, but it was just so inspiring for me. And it made me realize that, the truth about how we've been kept in the dark and so many illnesses out there that you can actually use the detoxification methods with, and natural therapies, and they're very responsive to this way of life. And it got me thinking, like, how have we not been able to figure this out? Like, how come this has not been taught in schools? How come this is not readily available? And why does our doctor not tell us about this? So that's really where my passion, as well as James's passion, just, conjoined together and made us want to make this a mission, make this a revolution, to talk on the topic of food is thy medicine.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and how you've seen both sides of things, and how you've now decided to merge those worlds into one and make it your own way of living and your own way of raising your children and your family and educating other people around you. So you're taking the best of sort of all the elements that you've grown up with and around, and bringing them into this ideal life for yourself. And I absolutely love that. I find it very inspiring and fascinating. There's, obviously this firm interest around health and nutrition, but with you, I really see the whole holistic side of things. So you've really got an interest in the mindset side of things as well, and how it all ties in together. So how important do you think it is to get our thoughts in the right place in order for us to thrive? So you're thriving physically already with the nutrition, but then how do we thrive also with the mindset and the tools to hack into our mindset at its best?
Beautiful question, Maritza. And it's so true. I mean, as a nutrition coach and a health coach for many years, helping our clients, I realized it's not just about food. And we started, working together with a lot of our clients when we started realizing, okay, we're changing the diet, we're, contrabanding certain foods, we're doing a detox, yet we're still not seeing results because there's a shift of a mindset that needs to happen. It's either a shift of a mindset or it's something that has to do with a release of emotion, right? Before the healing can start taking place. And when we started realizing that, I mean, we intrinsically knew that as well, but when we started realizing that it's not just about nutrition, nutrition is the starting point. It's the way in. It's our body saying, hey, if we give this a try, if we allow ourselves to really calm our bodies with the foods that we eat and we don't overdo it and we just eat clean, clear, and pure, then we're halfway there, right? And the second part of it is the emotions. So getting our mindset straight, getting our working through our traumas, working through stuck emotions that we've had swept under the carpet for so many years. And we did a whole film on this, actually. It's the Transcendence 2 docuseries that we later released with GAIA. And my God, I loved the interviews for this because it was on a different topic. I was obviously very passionate about nutrition, but all of a sudden here we were talking about mindset and about stamina and about allowing ourselves to detox our emotions through EFT tapping or through different types of meridian tapping and different types of NLP and different ways that we can use our breath to be able to release emotions and stuck patterns in our bodies. So this got me into meditation and breath work. And I actually went to Bali and studied certification on a breathwork traineeship. And it was there that I realized that we can breathe out our emotions. We can allow ourselves to go into that theta state of peace, of deep relaxation. That is where the body heals. And personally, having experienced copious amounts of breath work where I had to delve deep, I had to go deep into those childhood traumas, working on the inner child and working through emotions that I had stuffed under the carpet, that I realized, wow, we can release this through something as simple as our breath, right? So that's so powerful. So that's why I'm now very passionate about teaching this here, especially here in Vanuatu. I've hosted a few. It's called Clean Eating and Breathwork workshops, and we start the morning off with a ritual, and we allow ourselves to see our body as our temple, and we go through the garden and we look at herbs and different spices that we can use to clean our body and to do the therapy, right? Because every day we have the choice what we put in our mouth. Every day we have a choice to choose clean or deep fried or clean or toxic junk, right? And so it's helping people become aware of food as a ritual, food as a therapy. And then we go into breath work and sound healing, and we get them to completely relax. And then they do this work and these emotions do come up, and we have purging buckets next to them. We actually have tissues, and we allow the participants to really go deep into this state of release. And I guess that's where I find as now, like being able to host these events, I find that very rewarding, because you can see the change in people, and they love coming back and doing it again. So it is something that we continue to work on as we improve ourselves and our bodies, and we start releasing more of these toxic emotions and stuck and trapped emotions, we just start to feel clean and light.
They keep coming back because they feel so amazing afterwards, no doubt. But you talked about the healing journey, and it's funny, we were talking about this a couple of days ago with friendship group, but where do you think people should start on their healing journey? Like, or are different people at different stages? Like, do we start someone on their healing journey through their mindset, or do we start someone through their healing journey through food? Because, there's people out there in my friendship circle, in my family, that you really can see, prospects of being able to help them and implement positive change and healing. But where do you start the approach is the big question.
It's a really good question, and it really has to do with the individual, I'd say. And I find with men, it's actually through breath work, because sometimes if you're stuck in a certain way of eating, like if someone says to you, hey, how about you change up your steak and chips for a salad and some quinoa, it's a little bit of a big step. And for men, all of a sudden, I see them coming into these breathwork sessions, and we do what's called Wim Hof DMT breathing. And they're like, wow, I've never felt this good before. And I'm like, okay, so you've got an in, right? So it's almost like you need an in where you start feeling better and you get it. And you're like, ice bathing for certain men, all of a sudden they're like, I never felt, I never thought I could do.
And they can bring their masculinity into those types
they can
of
bring their
exercises as well.
in. They can jump in an ice bath and get out and just like do some movements and breath work, and they feel so good. And it's like, yep, there you go. You've got an in now, and I love seeing this way of how people can start transforming. And for a lot of women, it is through food, because we're nurturers. We want to look after our family. We naturally want to eat healthy and look after our body as a temple. So I do find sometimes with women, I get through food first as a way to open up to the idea of, actually, it doesn't have to be, the lemon and maple syrup detox. Actually, why don't we look at it like the lifestyle choices that we use as rituals, and a day-to-day basis? We have a cup of tea. Why not use that tea to have, let's say it's a turmeric tea, rather than just the old standard Earl Grey with milk and sugar. It's a turmeric tea, and talk to them about the properties of turmeric and why we use turmeric as an anti-inflammatory. And that can be a really good in, so it really depends on the people and who you're dealing with and where their background is with what they're going to resonate with.
It's important too, Laurentine, just based on what you just said, is that we don't need to also wait until we're sick to make these changes. We can make these changes before, or to prevent illness, and swap the meals out to healthier meals just because you're inspired to do so, not because you've been told you've got some terrible diagnosis and you now need to cure yourself or heal and recover. It's getting into the ears of people and the mindsets of people before they get that diagnosis, before they get unwell. That's what excites me, and I'm sure you too.
Yeah, that's so true. I remember when we were filming for Food Matters, we traveled down over the border to Mexico to a clinic called the Gerson Clinic, and it was set up by a lovely lady called Charlotte Gerson, and she was helping end-stage cancer patients overcome cancer naturally through detoxification, natural therapies, and a lot of enemas and juicing. And it was a really amazing experience, because we had to actually travel across the border because it was illegal in America to use these type of therapies, because in America the protocol for cancer is chemotherapy and radiation, and if you're not choosing those modalities, then you're actually breaking the law. So that's why she had to set up in Tijuana, Mexico. And I got to speak to these cancer patients, and cancer is not something that it's not an illness that occurs overnight. It's something that happens in the body for years and years and years. And a lot of them had come in, and you could see the fear in their eyes, and they were being taught by Charlotte to remove any type of toxicity, including shampoos. They were not allowed to use any makeup. They had to remove all of their perfumes and their even essential oils. They had to use very limited, even just like coconut oil. I think that was the only thing they were allowed to use. And it just makes you realize that, you know, when you're that far down the track of an illness, it takes a long time to get your body back to a natural state. But it is possible. And that's the beauty of it. Like, there's no way that there was actually these beautiful patients that were seeing results straight away. Their tumors were shrinking with this therapy, and they were continuously doing a natural protocol. But a lot of them, when I spoke to them, said, I wish that I had lived a natural life and a non-toxic life before I had to get to this clinic, you know? And for me, it just reminds me every day when I eat natural foods and I live a natural life, that I am doing this service also for my kids and setting them up so that we are here to prevent illness rather than tackle it when it becomes a problem. And I think that's the biggest premise of the Food Matters website as well. It's making people realize that, hey, now is our chance. We can choose every day what we put in our shopping cart. We can choose every day what we put in our mouths. And it's, you know, the same action, but one can be toxic soup and one can be a healthy snack, or even just thinking about just one ingredient rather than reading the package and going, wow, there's some ingredients on here I have no way I can even pronounce, but I'm still going to put it in my mouth, right? So it's like we have the choice every day to make our life beautiful and to have positive thoughts and have yummy foods that we entertain our bodies with. And yeah, rather than have to fight an illness, to prevent an illness. That's really where it's at.
Yeah. And the education is just a no-brainer, really. Like, why don't we pick up the packets and turn them around? Why don't we read the ingredients list? Why don't we question what's in our food and what we're feeding our newborn babies and our toddlers and our children? Why aren't we questioning this a little bit more? So I love that you start these conversations with people, and then if they then filter out to other family members and friendships, you know, the impact grows and spreads, and the change within is magnified. So I love that. I want to go back to breath work a little bit and really take people through that journey of what breath work does. Do you remember, because I remember mine very clearly, do you remember your first breath work session?
I certainly do. And it was a bit of an awkward experience because my arms were tingling so much that they were forming into a knot, right? And it's called, later I realized it was called tetnia. And it's something that does happen when your emotions get so strong and it's so stuck that you don't know how to release it. And I remember after the session asking my therapist about that. And he said, oh, no, it does happen sometimes when we do, you know, you give it your all and you do go into that state of fear and that you can't let go. But it's natural. It's okay. It's not something damaging, you know, and it is something that happens to a lot of us.
Did you have, I've seen that happen quite a few times because we actually go every Saturday morning up here on the sunny coast to do a sunrise breathwork session with the community up here. And although I haven't experienced the clawing, I think people call it clawing as well, I've seen a lot of people, you know, break down, have the clawing, have the emotional releases. For me, my first session was all about the emotional release. Like, I went into it really not knowing too much about breath work, just thinking breath work be like meditation. It'll be quite relaxing. And little did I know I would be spending the next 5 hours sobbing in the corner, thinking about the journey of healing that had just opened up within me. And I was just floored by the power of those emotions that came out of me from that breathwork session, and then that sense of release afterwards. So for you, did you have, I mean, you had the physical side of it. Did you get any of the emotional benefits from your first session?
So my first breathwork session was very deep, very powerful. And I had a lot of sobbing. I had a lot of remembrance. I had a lot of activations. I actually did have a lot of even past lives flashing
Wow.
through. And that's why I think the modality of breathwork is so powerful, because it's allowing the body to do the healing, right? It's really just going in, and all of a sudden you let your body breathe itself. Like, you're no longer doing it. It's actually breathing itself. And then it comes through with these beautiful waves of either sadness or gratitude or emotions that are releasing. And then at one stage I had this, this vision as well. I had a beautiful Mother Mary vision of hosting others in a sort of a similar sort of temple environment. And it was this vision that allowed me to and actually now I get emotional just thinking about it, because it's what I'm doing now as well. It's like being able to host more people in a temple space, and where we are able to, as a collective, breathe together, release together. And it has been my passion ever since my first breath work, when I had this vision to bring that modality to the world. So it's not just clean eating, it's also clean breathing, right? So it's releasing.
Yeah, it's funny.
So, yeah.
We all find our little jam, don't we, when we're on this pathway of self-improvement or self-development or whatever you want to call it. And you find the thing that really sticks with you and works for you. And you've obviously found that with the breath work and other different modalities out there. But I want to know what your life non-negotiables are. What are the practices that you must do in order to feel centered in your life and stay balanced? Because you're a busy woman. You've got a lot going on, I must say.
A lot going on. And especially when you're a mother on top of that, you also have so much, I guess for me, I have a lot of time for the kids. And you're right. There's certain rituals that I do in the morning that are non-negotiable. And I find to be able to wake up and to have even if it's just 5 to 10 minutes of just being in my own space. And in Vanuatu, I'm very lucky because I go to a certain space. But in Australia, I used to have a little shrine where I sat with my deities. But here I sit in this beautiful space, and it's overlooking, I picture the whales and the dolphins, it's overlooking the ocean. And I have this time where I can connect with the divine. And it's not just the divine outside of ourselves, but it's the divine within. And let's do this little ritual where I pull up the energy from the earth. So it's almost like a bit Tai Chi-ish. Like I actually, with my hands, I pull up the energy from the earth, and then I pull down the energy from the Papa Sky, they would say, and it's Mother Earth energy. And then it just comes together into my heart space. And then I, with my eyes closed, I almost use my hands to work through this rotating ball of white light in my heart space. And I just allow that ball to sit there, and I breathe energy into it. And this ball just starts spinning, and then it becomes bigger, and it becomes more, it's almost like the spinning ball just starts transfusing all throughout my body, throughout all of my cells. And then I just create this bubble of white light around me. Again, it's very Tai Chi-ish. When I do it, I'm like, I wonder if people are looking at me, what they think I'm doing.
I'm hypnotized. I feel like you've almost taken me into a meditation here.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I have this ball of white light around me, and it's a beautiful practice to protect ourselves and to really ground and pull through the energies of the heavens, and then meet that in our heart with the energies of Mother Earth. And so then I'm in this, I'm feeling it right now, because I have done this so many times. I'm feeling this space that I'm in, and I feel really good. And from that experience alone, I can make it longer, but it's somewhat like a personal meditation that I feel really good in myself. And I have that sense of safety in myself, that bubble, that I'm like, I got this, I can do the day.
You know, how good is it though that it only takes 5 or 10 minutes? Like you said, there are so many people listening to this now saying, I don't have the time to meditate, I don't have the time to go and do breathwork sessions, I don't have the time to do retreats, etc., etc. But if there's one thing that you could do it is giving or gifting yourself those 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, in the afternoon. Hide in the toilet if you have to from children or wherever it is. Find those moments that you can steal for yourself just to connect within. It's beautiful.
Beautifully said. Yeah. And I hope those that are listening can use this type of meditation, because it really allows us to center ourselves. And out of all the meditations that I've done online, some of them are available for free online. A lot of them will be similar to this energy of pulling in the energy of God consciousness and allowing that to infuse in every cell in our body, and then pulling up the energy and the frequency of the earth, because Mother Earth has a frequency. And if we start to vibrate at her frequency, we recalibrate all of our nervous system. We recalibrate all of and toxicity just removes itself. It can't live in a place of peace, right? It's like if you have all this solfeggio frequencies, if you have these specific frequencies that we can listen to, you can listen to them through singing bowls or listening to even harp music or violin. And when we take those frequencies on, we're actually raising our vibration. So if we can do that naturally with the energy of the earth and actually visualize that frequency coming into our body, then we feel set for the day. It's like we feel untouchable.
And then you're going to pair that with an amazing meal for breakfast and you're like, right, I've won the morning, I'm winning the day. That is just perfect. I love that. So I believe, and I've seen the books that are housed in your Food Matters office and in the bookshelves behind your Zoom meetings, and you are very well read and well educated and have probably got a long list of mentors of your own that have taught you along the way. But who stands out for you? I'm going to frame it in this way, because this is how I usually frame it for this podcast, is what is something that you have heard that you could not unhear, and something that created positive change within you?
Beautiful. Well, I am currently very fascinated by the topic of letting go, and I'm reading a book called Letting Go by Stephen Hawkins.
Right, and that's the third time someone's mentioned that book to me in the last week, so I think I may have to get it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
It's really fascinating, because we always try to, the Vedic philosophy of non-attachment. I mean, it's been something that I've wanted to understand more ever since I was taught that, and it's also Buddhist. It's the philosophy of not holding on to things, not holding on to emotions, not holding on to attachments to an outcome, right? But knowing that the universe has our back in a way that it will present us with the right scenarios for things to unfold perfectly. And this particular book has really got me it's got my head spinning, because it is about like letting go, right? And it's like letting go. Wow, that's like a concept. Like, how do you let go? Like, my whole life I've been a little bit of a control freak, and I've wanted to hold on to things. I wanted to, I thought I was doing my best by being a perfectionist and double checking sales pages before they went live, and, figuring out exactly how I can get more information to more people. And that has got me to so much success, I would say, in my life, because I didn't let go, right? And now all of a sudden I'm being confronted with a book that's telling me to let go, and it's just like, well, sometimes lessons come in interesting ways. And it's talking to me about the concept of not being attached to a certain outcome, right? And that's what I've always, we can do this through visualization. We visualize a certain outcome, but then we have to completely let go of it for the universe to allow it to happen, rather than sit there and wait, like the impatient manifester that sits there and waits, and it's like, it hasn't happened yet, it hasn't happened yet. And then we don't actually trust the universe when we do that, right? We're actually saying, no, I want this faster, or this is not showing up for me right now. And, so it's really about allowing those energies of how we want to feel on a daily basis, or the emotions of having it, a certain, like, for example, if you want to be an author and you want to publish a book with Hay House. I remember when we were incredibly bent on, we needed to publish a book with a certain publishing company. And it was through these type of philosophies, and John Gabriel, he's like, well, why don't you just feel the emotions of your book being published by an incredible company, but don't have the attachment to the name of who's going to do that for you, right? And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's how we need to live. It's like there's a higher order. There's a higher timeline that will unfold for us when we just trust. So that's where I'm at. I'm letting go of the expectation of how the outcome should look, right? Because that is really just it's the configuration of our own box, the societal conditioning of what things should look like. But if we hold the emotion of how we would like to feel, or how we would like an energy, for example, with this book, right? We would like to feel being published by a very good publishing house. Just hold that energy in our space and know that the universe will provide the right answer or the right publishing house for that, to match that emotion.
And it worked out. So Hay House published your latest cookbook, and it's up on my counter, and I use it pretty much every night. It's brilliant. So it's well done on that visioning. But you've used visioning a lot in your career journey, and especially with Food Matters, haven't you?
That's right. Yeah. So visualization for me has been a big tool, and I go back to when I was interviewing for Hungry for Change and Transcendence 1 for GAIA. And it was the way that when we spoke to a lot of the self-help gurus, the way that they were embracing visualization. And visualization is a powerful tool for weight loss, for example, for allowing energies like relationships to come into our life, love relationship, or career success, visualizing abundance in our lives. So I have personally used visualization as a tool when I create a vision board, but then also it's a way of living as well. Like every day we have the opportunity to, in a meditative state, to bring about a vision of our highest self. Like, what is our highest self eating right now? What is our highest self? How is it talking? How is it showing up? Who is it hanging out with? Who is it, surrounding themselves with? And all of these visualizations that we can do in the mornings allow that to come into fruition.
But also the goal setting element of it too. Like if you have a clear direction of where you're wanting to get to, don't know how you're going to get there, but you know where you want to get and how it's going to feel when you're there, the rest can just magically fall into place. And I remember Oprah saying once, plant all the seeds that you need to plant, set yourself up with all the knowledge and the tools that you need to get to that certain place. And then you can sit back, you can surrender, and you can let go and just watch it happen, watch it magically just manifest.
Absolutely. It's beautifully said. And it's the sense of never asking how. Don't ask how. Just don't. Yeah. Because we don't need to figure that out.
Yeah. Well, that's a relief though, isn't it? When you realize that if you just, equip yourself with everything you need and then let go, you don't have to actually find that pathway. And, that sense of panic or, stress or anxiety of trying to figure out the way to get there is just released. And then the barriers drop. So it's a win-win for everyone. So you've obviously got a lot going on and lots of new things coming into the Food Matters platform. Do you want to just give us a little bit of a rundown of what's new and what's coming up?
Thank you so much for asking, because it is something that I'm very passionate about. After we started the nutrition certification course, we had a lot of our family, friends, co-workers and clients participate in becoming nutrition coaches. And they were yoga students, or they personally had their own coaching website already. And a lot of times the narrative was like this: I don't really like my accounting job or my e-commerce job. I want to do something I'm passionate about. So that's why I'm going to study nutrition, and I'm going to start my own coaching course or coaching business or an online practice. And I loved hearing everyone's enthusiasm about this. But sometimes when I spoke to them 2 years down the track, they would have lost momentum, and they've said things like, I needed to go back to my career, or I needed to go back into the business world. And it's just that's type of heartbreak where I'm like, oh, I wish I was able to give them more tools to be able to start a successful online business. So in feeling into this energy, we created a course called the Food Matters, or actually now it's called the Well Academy business course. So it allows individuals like yourself, for example, to be able to start a wellness business online and give you the tools and the tips, the tricks, the strategies you need to be able to make it profitable in the next 10 weeks, right? Because we're like, we don't want people to have to fail and go back to work. No, we want people to be able to live their dream. And a lot of the dream was, I want to be able to work from home. I want to spend more time with my husband. I want to spend more time with my kids. You know, I want to go and live on an outer island of the Pacific. So how do we do that? We live in we're actually so incredibly blessed to live in an age where we get access to the internet wherever we are, as long as we have good internet, and be able to make money online. Now, that's something our parents didn't have. So to be able to have the tools, and this is what we share in this new course, the software systems, the email marketing campaigns, what type of shopping carts we used. And depending on the size of your business, whether it's a small wellness coaching business or whether it's a larger scale business where you want to touch and reach a subscription website or touch millions, there's different types of strategies and tools and software systems that you can use. And we're going to share that in this course. And it's very exciting because there's a lot of people out there that are like, yes, I've been putting this off for so long because I just didn't know, I didn't have the skills and I didn't have the staff, and I thought I needed a proper, team to be able to do this. But if I can do this as a one-man band, bring it on. So that's where we're at. And right
so
now.
Good, because your community already knows you and loves you and have spent time with you through the nutrition program. So it makes sense to continue the journey with you and James, knowing the way that you talk, knowing the way that you teach, knowing the people that you can bring on board to just continue that evolution of who they are as well. So congratulations. It sounds amazing. And over 15, 20 years of business, I'm sure you've got so many lessons and skills and expertise to share with everyone out there.
That's right. And we, like you say, Maritza, we have done everything from creating websites to starting our own podcast channel to being able to get films to the marketplace and being able to launch books and get publishing deals and being able to do a subscription online channel that later sells to GAIA. And there's a broad range of experience that we're here willing to share, and secret sauce out the door. We're here to be able to share this with
so generous. And also the mistakes that you might have learned along the way that you don't want others to have to learn from as well. So I'm sure there's been many of those. We've all experienced our own mistakes that we can use as lessons.
That's right, exactly. And that's why, James and I started off as a two-man band, literally, and we started off in an innovation center because we couldn't afford a proper office space, and we had staff that consisted of university students, they were interns, and external VAs from the Philippines. And here we are, we have a thriving team, we have an office in the Sunshine Coast, and we have a community worldwide that, like you said, it's over 6 million followers online. And it's amazing to see that there's so much respect as well for people that are wanting to do this and see this as a revolution. They're like, yep, Food Matters has been able to it's 15 years that we've been doing this, the same thing. We've been teaching the same thing over and over again, and still the premise of using food as medicine to heal. And so many more people are jumping on this, and they're advocates of this message, and we want them to succeed as well. We want them to have a profitable business that they can have this beautiful ripple effect in the world.
Beautiful. Well, I wish you all the very best with it. I've seen brief snippets, so I know it's incredible. And I'll pop a link into the show notes if anyone's interested and wants to find out some more. But my final question to you would be, if you just had one thing to say to the world, what would it be? A big question to end on, but it can just be a simple statement that you'd leave everyone with.
Well, I'm going to go back to my belief system around food, and it is let food be your medicine. Because if we do this, then if I can be known for one thing, then that could be it, And I do think that I'm here to channel Hippocrates, because he was saying this many thousands of years ago. The food that we eat, the vibrational state that it's in, when we ingest it, is the vibrational state that we will hold throughout the day. So that's why I always eat live food. Live food means that it hasn't been cooked, destroyed, processed, or alterated in a way that it's no longer recognizable. So many man-made foods out there, yet, and I actually see it with my kids now that Rangi's getting older, he's asking and requesting more man-made foods, more foods that are just easy to make, just the 2-minute noodles, or the popcorn, or the chips, or any type of flavored foods. And it's because I see this happen with older kids as they get into university age. It's just time is of the essence. They don't have time to make anything. Oh, well, mum's busy. I'm just going to go make something in myself. But it's really allowing that information to infuse in him. I know that I've said it to him so many times now that it's going to stick in there. So seeing our food as medicine. And if you just have to remind your kids that as well, like, is that medicine? Are you guys going to have fun eating that? Or is that entertainment, or is that medicine, guys? So it's allowing each and every one of us to let that really infuse into us, and seeing our body as our temple, and seeing the way that we can elevate our consciousness through eating high vibrational foods.
You well and truly will be remembered for that message. I promise you that. Boom.
Well,
thank you.
And I've done my mission.
You have. Thank you so much, Laurentine, for joining me today and sharing so much of your wisdom with us. I knew it would be a great chat. I'm glad we finally made it happen. Wishing you all the best in Vanuatu, and hopefully we can all come and visit you soon.
That would be amazing. Yes, we'll have some turmeric tea together.
It sounds amazing. All right. Thank you, Laurentine. Thanks for listening to the show. What did you think? And what did you feel? Let us know by leaving me a message on the Things You Can't Unhear Instagram community page. And if you can, give us some ratings love on your favourite listening platform.